Stop what you're doing right now and answer me this. When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, will you see a man who's building himself into something greater? Or will you see someone who's slowly destroying his own potential? Here's the brutal truth that nobody wants to tell you. Most men today are failing this test every single day. They're choosing comfort over growth, excuses over accountability, and fantasy over reality. But what if I told you that the difference between the men who succeed and those who stay stuck isn't talent, luck, or circumstances? It's a set of principles that transform boys into men and weak men into powerful leaders. Today, we're going to explore the 4 pillars that separate men who thrive from those who merely survive. But I need to warn you, what you're about to learn will challenge everything our modern society has told you about masculinity. Chapter 1. The Modern Masculinity Crisis. Let me paint you a picture of what's happening to men in our society right now. The statistics are staggering, and they should terrify you. Men are 4 times more likely to die by suicide than women. Nearly half of male teenagers have never been in a romantic relationship, almost double the rate of previous generations. 15% of young men report having 0 close friends. In education, women now graduate from college at significantly higher rates than men in every single state in America. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Research from leading psychology institutions shows us that traditional masculine traits, like ambition, assertiveness, and goal-oriented behavior, are actually associated with better mental health outcomes in men. Yet our society keeps telling men these traits are toxic. The problem isn't masculinity itself. The problem is that we've created a culture that simultaneously demands men be strong while shaming them for their strength. We tell them to be leaders while criticizing them for taking charge. We expect them to be providers while mocking their drive to achieve. This contradiction is creating what researchers call masculinity strain, a psychological pressure that's literally breaking men from the inside out. Men are being told to suppress their natural drives for competition, achievement, and leadership. But these drives don't disappear. They get redirected into destructive patterns. Chapter 2. The 4 Pillars of Masculine Development. After studying the research and working with thousands of men, I've identified 4 fundamental pillars that separate thriving men from struggling men. These aren't opinions. They're backed by psychological research and proven by real-world results. Pillar 1. Radical ownership, the foundation of power. The first pillar is what I call radical ownership, and it's the foundation everything else is built on. Research consistently shows that men who take personal responsibility for their outcomes have higher self-esteem, better relationships, and greater life satisfaction. But here's what most men get wrong about responsibility. They think it means taking blame for everything. That's not what I'm talking about. Radical ownership means recognizing your power to influence every situation you're in, even when, especially when, other people are behaving badly. Let me give you an example. Your business partner screws you over on a deal. The weak man says, "It's not my fault, he lied to me." The man practicing radical ownership asks, "What red flags did I ignore? What systems could I have put in place to protect myself? How can I choose better partners next time?" See the difference? One response leaves you powerless and victimized. The other response gives you control and the ability to improve. This isn't about self-blame. It's about self-empowerment. Research from accountability studies shows that men who consistently practice this mindset build what psychologists call internal locus of control, the belief that their actions directly influence their outcomes. These men are more resilient, more confident, and more successful in every area of life. Pillar 2. Action over words, the language of respect. The second pillar is understanding that in the masculine world, actions speak infinitely louder than words. Research on male psychology shows that men naturally regulate emotions through action rather than verbal processing. Here's what this means practically. While women often process stress and emotion by talking it through, men are hardwired to process through doing something about it. This isn't a flaw, it's a feature. But modern society has convinced men that talking about problems is more valuable than solving them. Leadership research consistently shows that people don't follow what you say, they follow what you do. The man who talks about his big plans while taking no action earns 0 respect. The man who quietly executes on his vision while saying little earns tremendous respect. I know men who've been talking about starting a business for 5 years. I know other men who started 3 businesses in the same time period. Guess which ones people respect? Guess which ones actually build wealth? This pillar isn't about being silent or antisocial. It's about understanding that your reputation, your influence, and your self-respect come from your actions, not your words. When you need to build credibility with other men, with women, or with yourself, you do it through consistent action, not clever talking. Pillar 3. Mastering your internal state. The power of emotional control. The third pillar might be the most controversial, but it's absolutely critical. Mastering your emotional state. Research on emotion regulation in males shows that men who develop strong emotional control have better relationships, better decision-making ability, and lower rates of destructive behaviors. But let's be clear about what emotional control means and what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means developing the ability to feel your emotions without being controlled by them. Here's the difference. An emotionally controlled man feels anger when someone disrespects him, but he chooses whether, when, and how to respond. An emotionally uncontrolled man reacts immediately to whatever he's feeling, often making situations worse. Research shows that testosterone actually makes men better at recognizing threats and making quick decisions under pressure. But cortisol, the stress hormone, can hijack this system and make men impulsive and reactive. The key is learning to use your emotional responses as information while maintaining control over your actions. The strongest men I know aren't the ones who never feel fear, anger, or sadness. They're the ones who feel these emotions fully, but don't let these emotions make their decisions for them. This is what real emotional strength looks like. Pillar 4. Breaking free from false rewards. The reality check. The fourth pillar is the hardest for most men to accept, breaking free from false reward systems that drain your masculine energy. Research on gaming addiction shows that 94% of gaming addicts are male, and these men are trading their real-world potential for artificial achievements. The same pattern appears with pornography consumption. Studies consistently show that excessive pornography use is linked to erectile dysfunction, decreased motivation, and reduced ability to form real relationships. But the deeper issue isn't just the physical effects. It's that these activities hijack your masculine drive for conquest and achievement. Think about it. Video games are designed to trigger every masculine instinct you have: competition, leveling up, gaining status, conquering challenges. But these achievements exist only in the virtual world. You're feeding your masculine drives with fake rewards, while your real-world potential withers away. The same thing happens with pornography. It gives you the neurological reward of sexual conquest, without any of the actual challenge, growth, or relationship building that comes with real romantic success. Here's the key insight. These false reward systems aren't random addictions. They're parasitic on masculine energy. They take the drives that should be building your real life and redirect them into activities that give you temporary satisfaction while leaving you weaker, lonelier, and less capable. Chapter 3. The Father Factor. Why male role models matter. Before we talk about implementation, we need to address the elephant in the room, the critical importance of father figures in masculine development. Research consistently shows that boys who grow up with involved, positive father figures have better outcomes across virtually every measure. They have higher graduation rates, lower rates of criminal behavior, better emotional regulation, and stronger leadership skills. But here's what's really important. Father figures don't just provide rules and discipline. They model what healthy masculinity looks like. They show boys how to channel masculine energy constructively rather than destructively. Studies show that boys who lack positive male role models are more likely to join gangs, struggle with addiction, and have difficulty forming healthy relationships. This isn't because they're inherently flawed. It's because they're trying to figure out masculinity without a roadmap. If you didn't have a strong father figure, this isn't an excuse. It's an explanation. It means you need to be more intentional about developing yourself, because you have to learn things that other men absorbed naturally. And if you are a father or father figure to young men, understand this. You're not just raising a child. You're literally shaping the next generation of masculine leadership. The way you handle challenges, treat others, and manage your own emotions becomes the template these young men will use for the rest of their lives. Chapter 4. The Implementation Blueprint. Now let's talk about how to actually implement these 4 pillars in your daily life, starting with radical ownership. Every morning, ask yourself, what am I responsible for today? Not what you're to blame for, but what you have the power to influence. When something goes wrong, pause before you assign blame and ask, what was my part in this? What can I learn? What can I do better next time? This is a muscle that gets stronger with practice. Start small. If you're late to a meeting, instead of blaming traffic, ask what you could have done to leave earlier. If a relationship is struggling, instead of focusing on what the other person is doing wrong, ask what you could be doing better. Implementing action. Over words. Start tracking the ratio between what you say you'll do and what you actually do. If you tell someone you'll call them back, do it. If you commit to going to the gym 3 times this week, go 3 times. If you say you're going to start a project, start it. Your relationship with yourself is built on this foundation. Every time you keep a commitment to yourself, you build self-trust. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, you erode self-respect. Developing emotional control. This isn't about becoming a robot. It's about creating space between feeling and reacting. When you feel a strong emotion, practice the pause. Take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me? What would the best version of myself do in this situation? Research shows that this simple practice literally rewires your brain over time, making you more resilient and better at making decisions under pressure. Breaking free from false rewards. This is often the hardest pillar because it requires giving up things that feel good in the moment. Start by tracking how much time you spend on these activities versus how much time you spend on activities that actually build your life. Replace false rewards with real challenges. Instead of gaming, learn a skill that could advance your career. Instead of consuming pornography, work on becoming the kind of man who attracts the kind of woman you actually want to be with. Chapter 5. The transformation process. Here's what you need to understand about this transformation. It's not going to be linear, and it's not going to be easy. Research on behavior change shows that most people underestimate how long it takes to build new habits and overestimate their initial motivation. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have days when you revert to old patterns. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human. The difference between men who ultimately succeed and those who give up is persistence through these inevitable setbacks. The transformation process typically happens in 3 phases. Phase 1, disruption, weeks 1 to 4. This is when you're actively working to break old patterns and establish new ones. It's the hardest phase because you're fighting against years of conditioning. Your brain will resist change and try to pull you back to familiar patterns. Phase 2, integration, months 2 to 6. This is when the new behaviors start to feel more natural, but they're not yet automatic. You still need conscious effort, but it's less intense than the initial phase. You start seeing real results in your life, which provides motivation to continue. Phase 3, embodiment, months 6 plus. This is when these principles become part of who you are rather than things you're trying to do. You don't have to think about taking responsibility. You just do. You don't have to force yourself to take action. It becomes your natural response. Chapter 6. The compound effect of masculine development. Here's what most men don't realize. Developing yourself as a man isn't just about becoming successful or attractive or respected. It's about becoming the kind of man who makes everyone around him better. Research consistently shows that men who embody healthy masculinity create positive ripple effects in every area of their lives. Their children are more confident and resilient. Their partners feel more secure and supported. Their friends and colleagues are inspired to raise their own standards. This is the true power of masculine development. You're not just building yourself. You're becoming a force for positive change in your community, your family, and society as a whole. But it starts with you. It starts with your willingness to look honestly at where you are now and commit to becoming who you're capable of being. The challenge. So here's my challenge to you. For the next 30 days, pick one of these 4 pillars and focus on it completely. If you choose radical ownership, commit to taking responsibility for one outcome in your life every single day, no matter what external factors are involved. If you choose action over words, commit to doing one concrete thing every day that moves you toward your goals, without talking about it or seeking validation for it. If you choose emotional control, commit to pausing and asking yourself, what would the best version of myself do? Every time you feel triggered or reactive. If you choose breaking free from false rewards, commit to replacing 1 hour of false reward activity with 1 hour of real-world development every day. Don't try to do all 4 at once. Pick one, master it, then move to the next. Final thoughts. The man you're becoming. Remember this. Every man you truly respect became who he is by consistently choosing the harder path. They chose responsibility over blame. They chose action over words. They chose self-control over reactivity. They chose reality over fantasy. The gap between who you are now and who you could become isn't filled by luck, talent, or circumstances. It's filled by the daily decisions you make about who you want to be. The world doesn't need you to be perfect, but it desperately needs you to be the best version of yourself. Your family needs it. Your community needs it. And deep down, you know you need it too. So the question isn't whether you're capable of this transformation. You are. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price. Because everything worth having costs something, and the price of becoming a man worth respecting is giving up the comfort of being a boy who makes excuses. The forge is hot. The tools are in your hands. What are you going to build?